In the spirit of learn, I want to remind us all that we are not fixed human beings. We are humans becoming. We hold the ability to learn, a capacity to think and then act, because our knowledge alone won't get us closer to our wellness goals. We need to adapt our behaviors accordingly. Too many leaders see wellness as an afterthought or a side dish, but we're here to learn how to bring wellness into the core of our identities with an extra dose of fun and whimsy. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Seems to have vanished. There we go. To kick off our call today, I'm delighted to introduce Sandy Abrams, longtime entrepreneur on a mission to empower people to tap into the power of breath. She is the co-chair of the new GWI Breathe Initiative and is here today to lead us in a kid-friendly breath exercise for a healthy way to release stress, fear, and anger. Plus, she will share breathing tips for parents that can help us all inhale more oxygen, lengthen our exhales, and calm us all down. Over to you, Sandy.
Thanks, Kendra, Susie, and Nancy. It's great to be here. I am calling in from the East Coast and we'll be breathing into these trees around me. I am by a busy street, but hopefully we'll be able to hear well. So I'm thrilled to be on this call today with the theme being learn. I wish I had learned about the power of breath earlier in my life. So this is wonderful that the new children's calendar can help kids to empower themselves and learn things earlier in life. So learning about the power of breath is so empowering because it will help kids understand that they can indeed help control the way that they think and the way that they feel by using simple breath tools in small moments. Sometimes all it takes is one deep breath, and a child can feel a tremendous sense of agency and empowerment and a shift in mood and energy. So I wanted to open by sharing one of my favorite breaths. It's called lion's breath. Yes, it's wonderful for adults, but it's also wonderful to share with kids or teenagers because it's an immediate release of negative or stagnant energy. So I'll do one and then we'll do one or two together. And what you do is you start by closing your eyes so that you go inward. Through your nose, you take a long, slow, deep inhale. And on the exhale, it always makes people laugh because it feels funny. You stick out your tongue, you bulge open your eyes. And the great thing about breath is that it's customizable. So you can tell your child or your niece or your grandchild, make it fun, shake out your hands, use your body, do whatever feels good to you to release the stress. So let's do one together. Close your eyes. We'll start the breath down at the belly, through your nose, long, slow, deep inhale. And exhale. It's like, I can't not laugh when I do that. And also you can explain to children that laughter is breath. And so that's a great thing too. The next breath tool on our mini session today that I want to share is deep belly breathing, because there's a big difference from when you interrupt the autopilot, shallow, rapid chest breathing that most of us do throughout the day, including children. What happens is when we slow down the breath, and especially when we inhale through the nose, we connect to the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of the nervous system that helps us relax. So what I'd love for you to do is put both of your hands down on your belly. And it almost feels counterintuitive because we sort of lose this way of breathing at the age of 5 or 6, I think, and we start to sort of hold in our bellies. So with both hands on your belly, as you begin your inhale through your nose, let your belly come out toward your hands. And so let's take a deep breath and feel both of your hands moving laterally and your belly filling with air, then the air coming up through your lungs and into your chest. Long, slow, deep inhale that moves from belly up to the chest, and then exhale also through your nose. And I encourage you, if you can, to close your eyes. So this takes you inward. Again, feeling your hands moving out laterally, your belly's filling up on the inhale. The breath comes through the lungs, through the intercostal muscles, into the chest. Just hold it for the briefest second and then exhale for that same 5 or 6 second count. This optimizes the gas exchange. When you start to lengthen your inhales and exhales, your body begins to work more efficiently and your organs will absorb the oxygen better. Your blood will absorb it better. The last tool that I'll share today is something that I also shared with my kids when they were young, was that instead of telling children to calm down, because that often has an opposite and annoying effect, is to explain to them, hey, you know what? I'm not going to say calm down. From now on, I'm going to remind you, lengthen your exhales. And then that empowers the child to take control of the way that they're breathing. And they'll know that it then brings on the feeling of relaxation. So for this tool, we'll be inhaling through the nose for a count of 4 and exhaling through the nose to a count of 6 or 8. So you can close your eyes. Through your nose, inhale to a count of 4. Again, starting at the belly, 2, 3, 4, and then slowly exhaling, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, inhaling, 2, 3, 4, and slowly exhaling, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can continue, you can do 2 or 3 of those with a child and they'll start to realize, explain to them, this is science, it works. All you have to do is breathe in certain ways and you create the feeling that you want. There's a breath for every type of energy, whether you want to balance, whether you want to calm yourself or energize yourself. So one last talking point that I wanted to make today was that it is really important as parents or grandparents to also look at our children and notice if they're breathing through the mouth, because if your child suffers a lot of fatigue during the day, it's really one of the top things to check, because mouth breathing can cause a lot of interruption in sleep. So your child may not be getting good enough sleep. And there are so many different ways to help your kids learn how to keep their mouth closed. The nose is a use it or lose it organ. So there's a lot of science out right now about the importance of breathing, inhaling and exhaling through your nose. It filters the air. And when if you're taking all of your inhales during the day through your mouth, you're not filtering the air and you're actually bringing in any toxins and you're giving them direct access to your lungs. Whereas if you're inhaling through your nose, not only are you connecting to the vagus nerve and connecting to the relaxation part of your nervous system, but you are also filtering the air. So that's my mini lesson today, so that kids can learn some empowerment tools through breath to feel their best and know that they do have some agency in how they think and how they feel.
Thank you so much, Sandy. You're getting a round of muted applause. So thank you for joining us. It's also great to remember that laughter is breath, something I'm definitely going to remember this week and moving forward. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Wonderful. So I am now excited to introduce Christine Clinton from the Junior Genius Global School in Dublin, Ireland. And she's also the chair of GWI's Wellness for Children initiative. She's with us today to share insights and beautiful photos of the wellness rituals for children and their families that have helped through COVID and beyond, from dino yoga to forest bathing to harvesting garden veggies. Welcome, Christine.
Good morning. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And Sandy, I really appreciated what you shared with us about breathing, because a lot of what we were doing too involved breath work. And we have a particular focus on children with additional needs. There was a lot of frustration for those children who had no routine during COVID and found themselves locked in and unable to express themselves or run around and shake off that energy that they often have. So the breath work was key to that. So I'm glad we are able to, I'm able to piggyback on that. But one of the exercises we did too was taking down the flame, where the children can envisage that this energy is a flame and they need to take down the flame. So they do a little smoothing of the body and then they shake it off, and then they do a little chum 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 and shake it off. And that was taking down the flame. And so if a child was really struggling, we had the parents say that, let's all take down the flame. And then they would release some of that energy and frustration of being stuck indoors. So as much as possible, we gave all of the children, were given little pots with various things to grow. And we wanted them to understand the cycles and the rhythm of life and growth. So we tried to, we included that in the phases of the moon. So full moon, crescent moon, new moon, and let the children see what was growing at what rate, so that by the time they were able to go in and collect their veggies, they could see what had grown and what hadn't. And it helped them to really understand that not everything happens at once, because again, as we know, in our immediate gratification life, these children needed to see that some vegetables grew quicker than others, and they really appreciated that. They started to recognize that not everything was growing at the same rate, and we tried to, as I said, implement that in terms of phases of the moon and phases of growth cycle for them. So this is some of the children picking their tomatoes, or tomatoes. They say tomatoes, we say tomatoes. So so anyway, they were growing and picking, and they could see that sometimes green beans took a lot longer to be ready than, say, their tomatoes and cucumbers and their carrots. And what they liked too was that, of course, they could take them home and eat them. They could actually go home and help to cook with them. So we found the parents were very well encouraged by what we were doing. But in addition to this, we had a nighttime ritual, again, for some of the children that had a hard time resting or sleeping. And it also included breath work, but with some essential oils that we had approval for the moms to use, moms and dads. We have meditation space outside. We're very fortunate to have 9 acres of prime land just outside Dublin city centre. So we have meditation areas. The children have learned all of these things from the very beginning. We start at 6 months, so the children are introduced to wellness rituals from the age of 6 months with massage and touch therapy, and we teach them to work with each other and touch each other. And that was difficult during COVID, of course, since touch was no longer really being advocated. But again, because of our space, we were able to create pods that every classroom had maybe 9 children in a pod. And so those 9 children were tested regularly with the rapid testing kits to be able to make sure that they could all be together. And the parents were very happy that they were still able to engage in some of these wellness activities. Of course, there was a lot of hand washing. This is an image of our training day where we had all the staff understanding the benefits of breath work and wellness rituals and how we can implement them every single day. And then we had very open communication with the parents. When the school was actually in lockdown, when we couldn't see the parents, we had drive-bys, and we would drive by the house and we would give the wellness kits out to the parents, and we'd have exercises for what they should be doing at home. And the parents loved it. And then the children could do little recordings. We sang to them, they sang to us. And we had a really open communication during the time. Yeah, drive-by wellness, Nancy says, yeah. Well, it's just a reminder that wellness can happen anywhere at any time without costing any money. And that's really important. We wanted the children to know that just because they weren't at school didn't mean that we weren't thinking about them. And we wanted the parents to know that we supported them by creating these little wellness take-home packets that they got every week that they really looked forward to. And they would be at the end of their driveway waiting for their little postcards. And now, of course, we have the wellness moonshots to hang in the classrooms. We've got 30 classrooms, and they're very excited to get their package so they can all participate in the moonshot. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. I love the photos. They are, you are doing such great work. You're such an inspiration, and also taking down the flame and starting at 6 months. I mean, this is what the Moonshot is all about. So thank you for joining us. And we're so excited that the Children's Moonshot calendar will be going into the Junior Dublin School. And we're going to hear more about the Children's Moonshot in a little bit. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Christine, was that building in the background the school? Because that was gorgeous, where the staff was standing?
Yes, that's our school. It's an 18th century manor. Yes, that's the school. Yes, thanks, Nancy.
Just
We're
like
waiting
PS6. Yeah.
we're waiting for you to come over. I know when the time is right, you will.
Wonderful. Thanks, Christine. I am now delighted to introduce the night owl, Elizabeth Mulhane from Sydney, Australia, who has spearheaded her own mindfulness program for children called Flowform that combines story time, breath work, and movement. While we're all here today to learn, the September call to action for the Children's Moonshot is actually be curious. Elizabeth will also lead us in a mindful trip to the moon, and we can explore our curiosity behind the moon's magic and magnitude. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Kendra. Hi, everybody. Okay, so yeah, a little bit about Flowform. I actually developed it for my students that have gone through the Mindfulness for Children course. I just wanted them to bring more movement in and to really understand that we can teach higher order thinking skills through gross motor skills. So we're teaching pathways and patterns. And I wanted to create a program that was robust enough for childcare teachers to come learn it. So we're really educating on our teachers on how to create these stories for themselves and the foundation of the stories and why we're teaching this or that. So they really understand what they're doing and the reasons why they're doing that. And so through each lesson, and they learn to make their own lessons, but I've got 10. And this one, the trip to the moon, is about all the lessons are based in the same kind of framework. So the kids start with a welcome song. They go around and they're just introducing themselves and saying their names, because we always want to make sure that the children know everybody's name in the group, and it can take a while. And so we're making them say their names, and we're creating that interconnection with the group straight away. Then they go into a chant, and it's a real power-up chant, whereas we're here to sing and dance. And so we're actually teaching them through singing, and we're teaching them through music, and they're doing a little power up there as well. Then they go into some yoga movements for their warm up, and they're going to do the tree pose and side tree pose, side tree pose, and going down into a forward bend. And then they're going into just a mindful moment, and then story time starts. So for this story time, we can also show them. So we'll just say, who wants to hear about Tom's adventures today? And, you know, everyone wants to hear about it. And we can show them a picture of the moon. So they've got that picture there. A picture can tell 1,000 words. And for this first part of the exercise, it's a mind's eye exercise. So if we've got that image there for them, we can help them to just easily create the mind's eye vision inside their little imaginations. And so we just start the story saying Tom's laying on his bed, and he's got his hands on his belly, and he's looking up out of his window at the beautiful big moon. And it's a big, shiny, beautiful ball. Let's all be like Tom and lay on our beds. We're just going to use our imaginations and pretend we're laying on our beds with our hands on our bellies, looking out the window. You can close your eyes and imagine seeing that beautiful, big, shiny ball of light up in the sky. Tom loves looking up at the moon, and he is so grateful for the moon. And he loves the way the moon shines its light. So even when it's dark, Tom can still look out his window and see the shapes of the trees and the branches and the leaves. And he loves the way the moonlight just shines over everything so he can see at night. He's looking up at the moon and just enjoying how when he looks at the moon, he feels calm, and he feels peaceful, and he feels a sense of joy because it's just such a beautiful experience to Tom. He lays on his bed, takes another 4 breaths while he's just looking at the moon. Let's all imagine we're doing that now. We're looking out our window, up at that big, beautiful, shiny ball up in the sky. Breathing in and out. And take another breath in and out. Breathe at your own pace. Feeling how calm you feel inside and connected with the moon. You're holding the moon in your mind's eye, holding it like a mental phenomenon in your mind. Then all of a sudden, Tom had an idea. He looked up at the moon and said, what are all those dark spots? He'd wondered before, but he really wanted to know. So Tom jumped up and started to build a rocket. He was going to build a rocket and go to the moon and find out what those dark spots were for himself. So then the story goes on, and that's when their yoga comes back in. Okay, so then because we say, okay, everybody, let's be Tom, let's pretend to build our rocket. They do a little side crab. They're just actually pretending to build the rocket. And then they're becoming like, they put their mask on, their helmet on, and they're breathing, and they're doing a tactile stimulation on their arms, pretending to put their suits on. And then they're being their rockets. So when they're their rockets, they're in tree pose again, standing up nice and tall, pretending to be their rockets. And then you do a countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, and then it's blast off. And then we're flying up into space, flying up to the moon, and they're doing their yoga poses in the story now. And so then it comes down to the forward bend, and then they're going down to the ground. They've landed on the moon. And so then the story continues on that, they're feeling the dust. They're feeling the moon dust, and they're finding out that that's called regolith. And then, you do the syllables. So they're all learning with the actual sounds and the phonic sounds behind making the word. And then they go into hearing that, there's some gold and silver in there as well, in those elements. And we go into talking about asteroids and the meteorites and the meteoroids, and just the slight differences between them. But the fact that, a meteorite can be a small little rock, but the velocity can be, the speed can be just such a big bang and big impact that it can make that great big crater. And so they're learning how those craters are made, that are the dark spots. And then, they're learning about the little meteorites, but then they're being a little meteorite, they're being a little tiny pebble on the moon, and then they're being a great big boulder. So we've gone into the core distal. So we've got them in at their core being that tiny little pebble, and then out to the distal points, like, their fingers and toes stretched out. And to do with the higher order thinking skills, that's symbolic of the same pattern as going into yourself sometimes and needing that inner space and that inner protection and intimacy, and then being able to reach out into the world. Okay, so there's those kind of pathways that's what the teacher's learning, that's why they're doing this, that's why they're doing that. And through it, they've got the cross lateral, they're doing things where they're going to cross that midsection and really develop that brain. And then they've got the balance, the vestibular, but in the story, they become the moon and they spin on their axis as the moon. And then they actually rotate around the Earth in the orbit very slowly and gently as they're rotating. And they find out, it takes 28 days for the moon to spin around just one time. And, it's like, imagine taking 28 days to spin in a circle. And so then and we do pathways as well. So the kids are, they do, follow the leader, follow the teacher, let's go travel around the moon and see what we can see. And so they're doing straight lines and curved lines and zigzags. So they're learning pathways that way as well. And, you know, that can transition over to a painting session later where they're doing zigzags or curved lines, and learning that way. And so spinning around in the circle, rotating around as well, they become the dance moves, which is the next section. So they do those dance steps. So all of a sudden they've realized, and they won't all realize, and that's fine, but the older ones will realize, hang on a second, that was yoga, and now I'm a rocket doing that, and that was me spinning as the moon, and now it's today's dance step. So it's that flow is allowing them to kind of have those conceptualizations of how we can learn one thing and do one thing, and then we can use that thing to do another thing. So it's just exploring, helping them to expand on their higher order thinking skills through showing them patterns and pathways. So and then the program ends with a gratitude moment and a reverence, and each storyline has a different reverence. So this one is to give reverence to the moon and the gratitude to the moon, and then they all end with a meta moment. So they have the dance, free dance, and then gratitude, and then end with that meta moment where they're just thanking everyone and bringing that love into the circle and that love into the group, that they've loved even the joy of the program and had a good time, and they're acknowledging that and connecting then with those feelings. So we're creating the feelings from what they've just done, and then making sure they're really connected. Okay, wow, yeah, I feel good. And then where in your body are you feeling good? So just making those deeper connections of feeling that joy and that feeling of love, and being with each other as well as the group. So that's the program.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's all inclusive. I love the flow. I love how it's not just one thing. You're really keeping the kids on their toes and keeping them engaged with such smart ways to go about it. So thank you for sharing with us and for staying up for us. It's been a true inspiration. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And given the reverence to the moon, because the moon is the essence of Moonshot inspiration, I will now introduce Nancy Davis, the Chief Creative Officer and Executive Director of the Global Wellness Institute, who will provide us with a moon moment.
Thank you, Kendra. September's full moon is known as the full harvest moon, as it's closest to the fall equinox. And in the Northern Hemisphere, the full harvest moon rises very soon after sunset, providing plenty of bright light for farmers harvesting their summer crops. This moon is well known for its luminosity, and certain Native American tribes have named it the Big Moon. Here where I am in Connecticut, the moon is bright yellow and does indeed show up early in the night sky. The most widely known tradition associated with the full harvest moon is the Mid-Autumn Festival, celebrated by Chinese communities around the world. It is also known as the Mooncake Festival, when people gather with family and friends to admire the moon and eat mooncakes, which are a rich pastry filled with sweet bean paste. There are many other variations on the Mid-Autumn Festival throughout Asia, and I urge you to read about it. It's fascinating and true to our DNA, a very global approach to understanding more about our world. On a personal note, this month is near and dear to my heart, as I don't think there is anything more important at this time of year and currently in the world than helping our children, and in my case, grandchildren who are here somewhere running around, to learn what's right and good, to learn kindness and respect, all of which are wellness practices that will serve them throughout their lives. When I think of children and learning, I think of the remarkable Stephen Sondheim and one of the songs he wrote for his award-winning play Into the Woods. The song is titled Children Will Listen, and I will share the lyrics in the follow-up email. I feel they are appropriate today and timeless. Here's just one stanza to leave you with. Careful the things you say, children will listen. Careful the things you do, Children will see and learn. Children may not obey, but children will listen. Children will look to you for which way to turn, to learn what to be. Careful before you say, listen to me. Children will listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. That really hits the nail on the head, and we'll definitely circulate those lyrics later. Very inspiring. Love the harvest moon and that luminosity. And next up is my lovely colleague, Amy Cook, who's GWI's Director of Development. She's here to make the case for the Children's Moonshot Calendar and other ways you can get involved in making a difference. Over to you, Amy.
Hello. It's so good to be with you today. I had a little cut on my finger last night, and I thought it was very appropriate that my husband brought me a Hello Kitty Band-Aid. So I am celebrating children today with my Hello Kitty Band-Aid. Many of you have already heard about our exciting new initiative called the Children's Wellness Moonshot Calendar. The calendar is charming. We call it a piece of art. It's also described as a hanging mobile to cue wellness activities. It helps educators introduce young children and preschoolers to the importance and practice of physical and mental wellness. As you might imagine, this past year, children have been in dire need of improved physical and mental well-being. For the past 18 months, children have experienced a radically different childhood. They've endured the loneliness of disconnection from their friends, the challenges of remote learning. If you have a child, you know what the challenges are there. Family economic stress, and even some have lost loved ones. As adults, I know that we can relate to the disruptions that we've had in our own lives. New studies with children are saying that globally, 1 in 4 children are experiencing clinically elevated depressive symptoms, 1 in 4. And 1 in 5 have clinically elevated anxiety symptoms. These are alarming numbers. We think that the Children's Moonshot Calendar is coming at the right time. It gives 12 monthly wellness themes for teachers and kids. And I just think it's a darling calendar. The mobile hangs from ceiling to floor, and each month, the monthly theme becomes a springboard. Some of the themes are eat healthy, explore nature, be yourself, and 2 of my favorites, show love and dream big. You know, can you imagine being in a classroom of 6-year-olds and the teacher asks you the question, you know, what is your big dream? Or how do you show love? It makes me smile to think of the varied answers that might come from those children. We have a donor who has been so generous and who has allowed us to put 300 of these calendars into the public school system, and private school system as well. We have a waiting list of 315 calendars that have been requested that we have not sent out, that we need help with. And that's where I come in as Director of Development. Our goal is to put these calendars in schools all over the world, globally. If you'd like to help us, you can help us. We're going to put a link in the chat if you'd like to explore helping us send some of these calendars out. You can fill in your own level of giving, or you can buy 1 calendar, or you could buy calendars for an entire school district. So it's very exciting to think of being able to send out the rest of these 315 calendars, and more requests are coming in each week. Also, we would love for you to support our ongoing work at GWI. Now more than ever, as a result of the pandemic, we need your help to keep our content free for everyone. Please consider giving today to help us produce compelling research and content such as what you're enjoying today on this call. There will be a second link in the chat to fund research and ongoing work. We appreciate you being a part of what we do at GWI, and I thank you for listening. Thank you for giving, and I thank you for being an advocate of wellness. Kendra, thank you for the opportunity to share today.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate you saying that the content is good, especially today. Thanks for the plug. But yes, the research is great, and we definitely do want to place more calendars. So we are actively seeking donations, especially in the education space. So if you know of someone, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. We want to spread the Wellness Moonshot to all ages.
I just also want to add that it's a great gift to give somebody, and you can do it in someone's name. And as the holidays approach and we all have, kids in our lives to give things to, it's a really wonderful gift. So I just want to mention that as well.
Yes, thank you, Nancy. The packaging is it's just so magical when you open it. I remember when I got mine, I was just absolutely delighted. So thanks. All right, now we want to hear from you, our Moonshot audience. We're excited to hear from you during our monthly Moonshot Q&A. Instead of typing into the chat, I'm going to pose one question to the full group. Please raise your hand either physically or using the Zoom function so I don't miss you, and unmute yourself, and please be brief so more can share. So I'm going to share my screen with the question. The question is, in the spirit of learn, what wellness tips would you give to your younger self? What do you wish you knew then that you know now? So I'll just let this sit for a moment, and then I'll take the screen share away so I can see all of your beautiful faces. And we're hoping to hear from a few of you for the next 10 minutes or so. So I'll read it one more time. What wellness tips would you give to your younger self? What do you wish you knew then that you know now? All right, does someone want to go first? Anybody? Anna? Anna, can you unmute? Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm speaking from Lisbon, Portugal, from ABC Hospitality, proud ambassador of GWI. And I think it's really a privilege for our now generation and generations before us that we can influence positive the teenagers and the children, and as mentioned by Elizabeth, with mindfulness, with meditation, with affirmations, even with a calendar that gives a theme for each month so they can reflect, think. And we're really making a difference to these new generations. And here in Portugal, there's a new, very fresh born project that it's called Action Generation, translating into English. It's an agenda from September to August, exactly directed to teenagers and younger generations. And if I could really, the new generations, the new leaders of tomorrow, I think it's Nancy Davis is presenting the new generation. And it's so amazing to be part of this transformation of society with younger people, more conscious, more aware, more responsible, self-responsible. And if I could look back and tell myself when I was 10, it's like a message of trust, have self-respect, and believe in yourself, in your talents, no matter what the world tells you, even when the world tells you you're wrong. Just go with your heart, follow your passions, and you're right, because you can't be wrong when you follow what you believe. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. Great advice. This self-trust, maybe some self-compassion too. So important. Such a learning. Would someone else like to go? Elizabeth, I saw you were raising your hand. Would you still like to go? You're on mute though.
Oh, I'm on mute.
There you go.
Okay, so I would tell myself that even though I'm afraid of things now as a child, in the child's mind, that when I grow up, I'll have a different perception and I'll have more knowledge and I'll understand things in a very different way. And I just need to have faith in that process. And yeah, so that I would just reassure myself that things that scare me now as a child are not going to scare me as an adult. And in fact, they can even empower me. So yeah.
Good to know. Yes. Little peace of mind as a kid that things will change. I mean, the only thing constant is change. Is something to know, but maybe an enlightening thing to know. Anybody else? Everyone's so quiet. Is it just the start of the week? I mean, I think as a kid, for me personally, I was not a super, I did not have great health and wellness as a kid because I think I was forced to take on practices that really weren't the right fit for me. I think, you know, I didn't like soccer or raw broccoli. And I think as an adult, I was able to find things that I did love, movement and healthy foods that were to my liking. So I think I needed to just find my own way. And I think it's so important to teach kids that they can find wellness practices that work for them and not just one size fits all. Just a thought, just filling it a little airtime, but I'm going to put the ball back in your court. Someone, please.
Lots in the chat.
Lots in the chat. Oh, thank you, Tara.
Kendra, my name's Lisa, and I see with social media, especially with everyone putting out their bright, shiny parts, and I wish I knew then, even without social media, and could tell the young people today that everyone has some sort of thing they're going through, and that, you know, it's not what it appears to be, because there's a really good documentary called Fake and Famous, and it just shows the detriment that can cause right now to young people, because it's not all real. So just that everyone has their struggles, because we don't talk about things like that, and people tend to think, how am I not getting it? How am I not doing it somehow? And stakes are higher now. So
that's so true, Lisa.
Lovely with the calendar and how it's bringing that all together. Just more awareness.
True.
Yeah, I would add, Kendra, what Lisa was saying, I was thinking about something similar, is that I wish that I had known when I was younger that if there was something bothering me, that I should talk to someone about it. I mean, no one ever mentioned that to me. And, you know, it's kind of like what you were saying, Lisa, you know, something is bothering everyone and every child. So I think had I been taught, you know, whether it was in school or maybe even with just a sibling or with a classmate or maybe a teacher or maybe a parent, if there had been more modeling of sharing what's bothering me, I think that could have gone a long way to being a valuable lesson that I finally learned later in life.
Very true, Susie. Always good to share and talk it out. Get it off your chest. Sounding boards are great. Amy, were you going to say something?
You know, to echo what Lisa was saying, we're not the people we put out on social media sometimes. We're not Facebook perfect. And if you go and look at Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and you see oh, all these perfect people with perfect families. And that's just not true. It's only perfect for that moment in time that you're looking at the photo for, perhaps. But positive self-image just, I think would be mine. I didn't like myself very much. I'm not sure why. I always thought I was overweight and I wasn't. I wish I was as thin as I was fat back then, or whatever that saying is. I messed it up, but we have to treat ourselves nicely, more kindly.
Yes, more self-compassion. People don't share their failures on social media, and I think we all need to remind ourselves that we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, as Lisa mentioned. And there are some great responses in the chat. I wish I had expressed more timely gratitude to all the teachers and elders who shaped my thinking. That's a great one, Rhonda. The importance of breath work, taking a breath and reflecting. Thank you, Christine, that's important. And thank you to Sandy, who led us through that earlier. I wish I had listened to myself more and treated myself with kindness plus breath work and meditation. Kind of like a flow form, you gotta put it all in there. Attitude of gratitude. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to keep the agenda moving since we only have 10 minutes left. I am delighted to announce the winner of our September Moonshot Challenge, Tara LaCastro, who's here with us today. Tara identifies as a lifelong learner with enthusiasm for health and wellness. She has embraced the Children's Moonshot calendar and has started her own local Wellness Wednesday Moonshot Thinking series that also follows the full moon cycle. Students are encouraged to include wellness as a fun and important part of their daily lives and to express their goals and dreams with the creation of a vision board. Tara, we'd love to hear from you for a minute or two.
Hello, everyone. I am just thrilled to be honored with this acknowledgement, and I would like to say that the Global Wellness Institute has just been a major inspiration for me in a lot of the volunteer work that I've elected to do in the last year. I'm teaching the first of the 3-part series this Wednesday, leveraging the springboard of the calendar and the theme called Curious. We'll be going through a little agenda together virtually. Right now in our state, everybody is masking. So this is an after-school program. And, we'll be going through the moon phases and to kind of attune them into the cycles of life and connecting them into that rhythm. So then we can move into doing a vision board so that they can express themselves without any limitations and to be supported in a small group setting. I'm thrilled to be offering this through the Cornell Cooperative Extension, which has a 4-H youth program, and it's all over, at least in the US. I'm not sure about internationally, but any of these youth programs seem to be an opportunity to collaborate with. So thank you so much for the opportunity, the shared wisdom, and just, again, being such a resource for goodness in the world, which is what we all need to do to give back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. Your volunteer work is an inspiration. I think we need many more of you. If only you could proliferate and clone yourself. This is, the goal of the Moonshot is to spread the word in a grassroots way like this. So thank you so much for your enthusiasm and participation to take it to the next level.
Thank you.
And we hope you all enjoyed learning with us this month. If you'd like to stay up to date with the latest wellness developments, more specifically around real estate and communities, we invite you to our upcoming symposium, which is next week. You can attend virtually or in person in New York City. Susie Ellis, our chair and CEO, is here to say a little bit more.
Thank you, Kendra. Yes, we're very excited that we have an in-person symposium in New York, where Nancy has helped put it together, and Kendra. They're both very involved with this. And speaking of learn, this is at the cutting edge of global learning. This is a symposium for wellness, real estate, and communities. And it might be new to some of you. It's definitely new for most people, but what's happening now, and actually the pandemic we've found has energized this space. People, they used to, have golf communities where people would come together and, all people who liked golf would, buy real estate around a golf course. Similarly, what's happening now is that the wellness focus is a real draw for people to live somewhere where other people are very wellness focused, and where there's greenery, where there's nature, where there's trails, where there's biking and hiking, and there's programming, and there's just a real focus on wellness. I think actually I live in a high rise here in Miami. And when we first moved to Miami, the reason we actually bought in this property is because it had an exhale spa. It has a hotel also, and there's an exhale spa. So we thought, well, living in a place where there is a spa, then you can maybe go down and have a massage or join a class. And I have to say, it has really exceeded my expectations, being somewhere where I can, I go work out. I worked out this morning. They have a, robust program, and it's not just a sort of a, gym in the corner type of thing. It's really a full program. And so we're seeing more and more of this. And that's why we've, the Global Wellness Institute decided to do a symposium. It's just one day for people to come together from, all kinds of places to talk about what the opportunities are. There are a few places that are already, up and running, like Serenbe in Atlanta is probably one of the foremost, but there are places all over the world that are in construction, and people are doing more of this for high rises or for homes or for communities in general. So in terms of learning, there's a huge opportunity there to really learn. And we're also bringing in a lot of international projects. Of course, not a lot of international people will be there in person, but we're curating a little video from those places. I think we have almost 12 that have videos and fact sheets. And so anyway, if you're interested, you can, participate virtually, or if you're in the New York area or want to be there, join us. I have to say I'm really excited about it. So thank you for letting me talk a little bit about it, Kendra.
Sure. Thank you, Susie. And I put the link in the chat. If you have any questions, also feel free to reach out to me. Before we go, next month's focus is charm, and our October full moon celebration will be on Wednesday, October 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So same time, same place. You'll find us here. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Lisa Fasulos, founder and director for the Center for Transformative Movement, for a movement segment. Instead of learning new moves today, Lisa will help us unlearn some of our beliefs or habits and relearn the sensation of feeling vibrant in our bodies. Over to you, Lisa.
Good, thanks everyone. So today we're going to dial in a little more fluidity and energy to our upper body. What can happen is when we learn things, we can take the path of least resistance. And when we do that cognitively or technologically, it's a positive thing because it saves us having to put that maximum output each time we repeat the activity. Why don't everyone stand up? So what we're going to do is we are going to take the basic movement pattern of reaching and pulling that we do, and just use that as an example of how our body actually craves and thrives on the opposite of path of least resistance. It thrives on maximum expressive output. So let's just practice a couple times, just a basic reach and pull, where our hand and our arm is basically doing that motion. So this is a practice you can do any time of the day, even for a minute will make a difference in your mood and energy levels. So Kendra, if you start the music, even just on low, that would be great. So let's break, I'm gonna ask you to think of yourself as a puppet, because we're gonna add in the shoulder and the elbow and the wrist, and then we're gonna reach. So let's lift the shoulder, lift the elbow, lift the wrist, and then reach. So see how your whole body feeling that stretch as opposed to just your arm. And this heel even comes off the ground because I'm reaching. Now let's reverse that to pull, where you're lowering your shoulder, lowering your elbow, lowering and press. So I have to get out of the way here, and this heel comes off the ground. So let's try that a couple times. Lift shoulder, elbow, wrist, reach, and drop shoulder, elbow, wrist, press. So let's speed that up a couple times with this arm. Lift, pull. And you can add your other arm. Lift, pull, lift. So it just adds this fluidity instead of this. Okay, let's try the other arm. So we're gonna start, just do a basic baseline, reaching and pulling. And now let's do shoulder reach, elbow reach, wrist reach, and now reach with your hand. Feel that stretch. Take a breath, and let's lower the shoulder, lower the elbow, and press down as we pull. So let's try that a couple times. We're lifting, we're pulling. Lift and pull. Lift, and it helps when you look at the part of your body that's moving. Pull, lift, and let's try it with both arms. Lift, and you can add a little step. So try again just the reaching and pulling, just without that extra. It's not as nourishing, it doesn't feel as good, and you just miss out. So let's just rock out for the last minute or so and use that in a dance where you're starting with your shoulders. Good. It just loosens up our shoulders and our elbows so that in other things that we're doing, you feel that fluidity instead of more of a rigidity. Let your head move and join with it.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and all of our other speakers for joining us today. Thank you to our Moonshot audience for being with us. We really appreciate it. We hope you are inspired, you learned something, and we hope to see you next month on the 20th in October, and we hope to charm you then. Take care, have a good one, have a good week.